Welcome everybody to another episode of In the Studio Live. I am Bobby Balo. I'm the mixing mastering engineer at Raytown Productions. If you've tuned in before, you know the basic format. Sometimes we go into the studio and I show you what I'm working on. Other times I have guests. Tonight is one of those guest nights. So that's really exciting. If you don't know, I have a YouTube channel. I have lots of cool tutorials and videos on there. I've also all of my old interviews and live streams. So if you want to go back and see who I've had on the show, you can do that and watch the episodes. You can also see all the cool beer I drank for each episode. And other than that, I'm just gonna get into it because I'm really excited about who we have on tonight. The person his name is Greg Hendler. I met him I don't know, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, something like that. And we were drinking in Vegas and became pretty cool friends. He does a lot of really amazing stuff. He's a producer, engineer. He's got a studio. He programs plugins. Smart guy, and I'm excited to have him on. But first, and most importantly, let's talk about the beer we got going on tonight. We got a big one. We got that 10 Fidy by Oskar Blues. It's as black as my soul. It's a barrel-aged Imperial Stout. It's gonna knock my socks off. I think initially it was supposed to be 10.5% by the 10 Fidy remark on the can, but this year it's 12.5%. So we're gonna see. We're gonna get a little sauced up tonight, maybe. We'll see. But so cheers to you guys, and we'll jump into the interview. Oh, that's good. That's trouble. That is a lot of trouble. What's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going?
Have you, man? This is amazing. Like, we finally made this happen.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for months.
I know. Schedules get kind of crazy sometimes. So, like, I'm glad that we finally found time and, able to make this work. So, something I forgot to mention earlier, for those of you that are watching, this is a interactive conversation. So if you're sitting there at home and you have questions about something crazy I said or something cool that Greg's done, just put it in the chat and we'll get to those questions, I promise. So, Greg, you're also drinking a beer, right? I mean, that's kind of like how the show works, I think.
Yeah. So I took it out of its koozie to show it off. The wonderful Miller High Life, known as the champagne of beers.
Greg lives the high life, man. The koozie is, I think, the best part.
So yeah, I'm enjoying this in my commemorative I Wrestled a Beer Once koozie that I got in an I Wrestled a Bear Once show like 15 years ago.
It is so good, man. Like I'm way more excited about that koozie than you are.
It's incredible. I love it. I mean, I still use it every day.
It's probably 10 years old by now.
I don't drink that much. Yeah, I think I got this in 2009.
Oh, the good old days.
I Wrestled a Bear Once opening for Dillinger Escape Plan.
Oh my God. That's amazing, dude. I saw Dillinger here in DC. I went, it was a sold out show, and I just rode my bike to the venue. It was like 14 miles away. And I made a little cardboard sign that says need a ticket, like, please, God help me. And I taped it on my bike, and then I just went there and stood out front with the sign and just like begged everybody that walked in the show, like, please, like, do you have any extra tickets? And I eventually got in, and it was a hell of a show. It was them and the Number 12 Looks Like You. They're like reunion show or something, or like comeback show. I don't know what it was. It was like a weird one-off thing. But man, those guys are nuts.
Oh yeah, they go hard. That was insane.
They're crawling all over everything like the whole time. People are in the ceiling and all sorts of fun stuff. It's like you go for the show. It's a spectacle, right? So it's amazing. So yeah, I mentioned in your amazing introduction about you. So you are a music producer, engineer, all this stuff. I don't even know. Do you play an instrument? You play guitar, right?
Yeah, I play guitar. I play bass. I've been playing a lot more bass than guitar lately, actually. Bass is really fun. It's easy. That it's just
No
two
offense
strings
to
easier
your
than
bass
guitar.
player,
It's
right? Yeah.
incredible. No, that's bass is bass is different than guitar. It's its own thing. But I really like playing guitar. Really like playing bass. I play a little bit of keyboards, enough to be like functional for rock music. I'm not a piano player or anything, but
You're the guy that do you actually do chords or are you just pushing the one note? Because that was
no,
me back in the day.
I
It's
can
like,
bang out some chords.
all right, all right.
So I end up playing like some keyboards on a lot of stuff I do.
That's
Um,
awesome.
but I wouldn't call myself a keyboard player. Terrible drummer. Fantastic auxiliary percussionist though. If you need some like
Like
shaker and
shakers,
tambourine.
maracas.
Oh yeah.
Did you ever play like in a band live?
Yeah. I played in a few bands over the years. So my most recent one that's been not really active in the last like year. I guess a lot of bands haven't been, but so it was called The Figurant. It's like progressive metal. If you like Between the Buried and Me and that sort of
Oh yeah.
thing. Is that I played an 8-string guitar in that one, so you know, crazy prog shit.
Yeah. That's all. Yeah, I was thinking about getting like a 7-string or an 8-string or something. I don't know. I've always been cool with 6, like, but then again, like I don't do any really deep low tuning stuff, so that
I
makes
never even like had a 7-string. I went straight from 6 all the way to
go
8.
big or go home,
It's
baby.
like it just appealed to me more.
Yeah,
It's like why
so
go halfway when I
that's
know I
right.
want to go all the way.
Yeah. So do you come from like a musical family? Or are you just a weirdo like me where it wasn't like no one was really musical and then all of a sudden like I'm not that musical, I just like making music. If
No,
that
I actually do. So my dad is very musical. He plays keyboards like properly. He's a really good keyboard and piano player, and he was always doing that. And around the house he had like a recording rig. He got into it around the time when like computer MIDI sequencers were coming in and like recording audio on a home computer wasn't even that big of a thing. So he had like all this like 90s keyboard rack synths
Oh
and like
man.
ran Cakewalk as like a MIDI sequencer and was doing a lot of stuff that way. So once I got his old computer at some point, when he got a new computer, I got his old computer when I was a kid, and it had Cakewalk on it, and that was my first DAW. And
Dude,
I wrote that all the way up to like Sonar X3 before I
wow.
tried something else.
That's amazing. I'm also a cakewalk person. That shows you how old we
Nice.
are. That's when that was like the
Nice,
only
yeah.
one, right?
Oh
We
yeah,
used
like
to-
Cakewalk Pro Audio 9, and then Sonar. I think by the time I started actually doing stuff, I was in middle school, and I think I had Sonar 3, and had a Creative Live Sound Blaster card,
Oh hell yeah. Platinum or
and I
like the
plugged
X
my
series.
my Behringer 2-channel Eurorack mixer into that,
Hell yeah.
and the fact that I was able to like record a microphone and myself playing guitar onto 2 different tracks at the same time like blew my mind.
Right.
And it's been like ever since then, like I can't get enough.
Dude, my buddy Anthony, who I saw he was commenting earlier, I was in a band with him. We lived by each other like maybe high school. And we started off with a Fostex like 4-track tape. Like that's how it started. And then I was the guy that got Cakewalk, and my God, we're like it was just like no one had any idea what we were doing. And there was like no tutorials, like you just kind of figured out how to get your guitar into the computer somehow, or like you'd take a computer mic, hook it up to your Sound Blaster card, and then just kind of point it at the drum set. It was like the wild, wild west,
Oh yeah.
recording.
I did some crazy stuff. I had like, for a lot of my guitar, I had like this Digitech multi-effects pedal that
Is it
eventually
the
upgraded
one with
to
the
a.
whammy pedal on it?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I eventually upgraded that to a Vox Tone Lab, which I still have around somewhere, and I would like record direct with that. And then, so speaking of musical family, my brother's also musical. He's a really, really good drummer, one of the best drummers I know. And I played with him when we were in like high school, and he's still doing cool stuff now. He's like an insane jazz drummer. He's really into
Oh,
synth and
sweet,
stuff.
man.
And we actually live together now, so I have him play drums for me on a bunch of stuff.
I was gonna say, I thought your brother was in some of your videos. So you have a YouTube channel.
I do,
Which,
yeah.
and
I should plug that.
yeah, you guys, if you don't know, you should check out Greg's YouTube channel. There's a lot of cool stuff. He's doing
GMH
stuff.
Audio.
Yeah, GMH Audio. Here, I'll put it in the chat so you guys have it.
So our most popular video by far on that channel is actually me and my brother, and it's like good drummer versus bad drummer, and I play the role of bad drummer.
I just saw it. It's great. I loved it, and I like how. So yeah, you bring everybody into into, was it Pro Tools or something? I forgot what you're using, but it was cool to like show that. No, I've never even thought about that, and it's cool that you break it down and like look, like you can see. Look at my drum hits; they're garbage.
Yeah, exactly. So that's me being like a mediocre drummer, and
Yeah,
like
I feel like
I couldn't
maybe
ask
you and
someone
I
to
are
like.
similar in drums.
I couldn't ask like an actual drummer to be like the bad drummer. That's cruel. So I'm like, I'll just use myself. I have no ego about my drumming.
That's awesome. No, I really like that video. And it seems like people also, they're kind of discovering it finally. And now it's like, yeah, something that it's cool. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out.
So yeah, that's more musical family stuff. What was I talking about? Oh yeah. So in high school, we were in a band together, and we wanted to record drums. We were playing like progressive metal. I was really, really into Dream Theater in like late high school. So we were like trying to do that kind of thing. And he had this like drum set with like 4 toms and like a bunch of cymbals, and all I had was like 4 Behringer knockoff SM58s. And I put one on the kick, one on the snare. I didn't know what I was doing. And then the other 2 I like just kind of put around. I guess they were sort of like overheads, but they're kind of just like in the kit near the toms. And then I plugged all 4 of those into like with adapters to get them into like 2 channels of my Behringer little mixer.
Oh, I
And
know
then
exactly what you're talking about. Like the Y
recorded.
cables where you can just like daisy chain a bunch of them all together.
I don't remember if I did that or if I just had like XLR to 1/4-inch adapters for like the ones I didn't have XLR inputs for, but I just got it down to like 2 stereo channels, and that was like the drums. And it turned out like not as bad as you would think, all things considered. I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah, it's so nice like now to have so many resources like these YouTube channels, but I guess at the same time you'll get like a lot of misinformation out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there'll be people telling you, "Oh, this is the only way to do it," or "This is why it sounds that way," and that's not right. So I mean, I guess it's like give and take. I guess as like, and it's right now I say it's like net positive. It'll get you started. It'll get you there a lot faster than us, tinkering around with all that crap.
The Facebook forums, man, it's like a hotbed of misinformation. I'm not going to name any. But
so
don't.
Yeah, I had a question. So you don't actively play in a band, right? You're just like recording bands right now?
No, I actually do.
Oh, sweet.
So, yeah, I play in 2 bands right now that are active as they can be given the circumstances. One's called the Organ Machines. I play in bass in that, and that's a really cool like ambient alternative rock thing. It's really awesome. I've known those guys. It's a trio. I've known them forever, and I've actually recorded everything they've ever done since they've been a band, even before I was in the band. And it's like some of my best friends. So like at some point, their original bass player left to do other projects, and they had some shows lined up. So asked me if I could fill in on bass for the shows. I already knew the songs, and said sure, and that went really well. And I think we did 2 like that, and then they asked me if I wanted to join, and it's like, well, you're some of my best friends. We're hanging out like every week at least. I'm coming to all your shows. I'm working on the albums. I'm
Yeah.
playing the shows. So I guess I'll just like be in the band because
Yeah.
like why not?
It's like it's funny. I filled in. I kind of did a similar thing too. I recorded this band. They got a huge gig. So in Wisconsin, we have this festival every year around the 4th of July. It's called Summerfest, and apparently it's the biggest festival in the world, like based on like turnout and stuff. Um, and they got a gig on like a main stage. So like the stage was like 40 feet, 50 feet wide. Like you like couldn't even interact with the band members. It was so big, like big stadium thing. And their like auxiliary percussion guy like dropped out, couldn't do the gig. And it's like, well, I recorded you guys. Like I know these songs, so I guess I have to do it.
Right.
Kind of invited myself to like into it. But what's crazy about that is so they had a lot of samples and things that layered and synths. Like I said, I was the one note synth guy, but I actually programmed like a little standalone program so I could click buttons with my laptop and it would play samples. And then
Oh,
I made like
wow.
a big emergency stop button just in case I screwed something up.
Yeah.
And
That's
I did it
great.
all like it was called Flash. It used to be like really
Wow.
popular. Like now everybody's getting rid of it because it's
Yeah,
dangerous. 'Cause
Flash
you
just
can like
ended.
take over people's computers with it.
Yeah, but
So
man, that's the good old days of the internet.
yeah,
RIP
yeah,
Flash.
yeah. So so I guess in terms of like recording bands, like what's the process? Do you act more as like a producer? Like are you developing the songs? Or are you more the technical side where it's like, all right, you guys figure out how the song's gonna sound and I'm just gonna make them sound awesome? Like what does it look like?
So, uh, on some level, it depends on project to project. There's been things where I'm a lot more hands-on and involved, um, and there's things where I'm, like, more or less an engineer and the band has, like, a vision and I'm just helping to actualize that. Where I think my favorite places to be is somewhere kinda in between. Like, I like when a band comes in and they have their songs written and, like, a pretty good idea what they want as, like, the core of the song to where they could, like, play it live and get the message across. And if we can go from that and then, like, add that extra, like, 10-20% to turn it into something really awesome, either, like, tweak some sections, move this bar over here, do the second verse differently like this, stuff like that. That I really enjoy, kinda like
Yeah, just a
putting
little
the
bit of arrangement tweaking, not really like change the lyrics, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, I'll work with some lyrics too, but it's usually, um, from the standpoint of, like, I think this would flow better or sound better with your voice if you said it like this or try this melody, or, if you change this lyric to here, the syllables will line up better with the rhythm. Um, Stuff like that rather than, like, writing a song from scratch. I like
Yeah.
having a song that's already written and then taking it to, like, the next level with them.
Yeah, I resonate completely with that. That's exactly when I was doing a lot of production work, it's same thing. It was just like bring them in and then we'll do like some quick pre-pro, get the ideas down, like scratch tracks, and then it would just be like copy and paste, chop things up. Um, so they had like the bare bones there. So I didn't. It's hard
Yeah,
just trying
exactly.
to figure out what a band wants,
For
unless
sure, and I
especially
always
when you're
like to
starting
get
out.
demos. Like, demos from bands to whatever, like, capacity they have the ability to do it. If it's, like, a full multi-track thing, if they have the knowledge and equipment to give me that, and they can have, like, their individual parts that level of planned out, that's great, but a lot of times I'll just get a, like, phone recording in a band practice space, and that's the demo, and what I'll do is I'll, like, either make a tempo map from that or figure out like a general tempo and quantize that cell phone demo like to a grid so then I could use that as a skeleton to like build a more complex demo off of when they come in and then build off that into the actual production of the song.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So if you're in a band, listen up. You got to have something.
Oh
Don't
yeah,
just go in the
have
studio.
demos. It,
I'll make my
like
guitar parts when we get there.
yeah, if a band comes in and I haven't even like heard what the songs sound like, I don't know like even where to start. It's like I guess we can start trying to get a drum sound, but what is the sound even supposed to be? I don't know what the music sounds.
Yeah.
Like how am I supposed to get a guitar tone if I don't know how the part goes?
Right. Exactly. So another question. So do you typically work in one genre, or I know you're out of Atlanta and hip hop is like a big thing there, and it seems like, at least in my experience, um, I do a lot of metal stuff, but just being around that like beat driven, genre, like music, like metal's very beat driven, right? So
Yeah.
it kind of makes sense, like why hip hop people might like the way I mix music, because I make sure that there's this movement in this groove that's reinforcing everything.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I'm just curious. Do you see a lot of crossover in there too?
So I don't do a lot of hip hop. I do some, um, but I definitely focus more on the rock side of things. And I don't do a ton of like super heavy metal either, although I like it and I've done some really heavy records and I enjoy it. But I typically end up finding myself in like the hard rock kind of vein, somewhere in the spectrum. But like anything with like guitars, bass, drums, like rock music is where I'm probably the most at home. Um, in Atlanta, there's a ton of hip hop. You are correct. And
Yeah,
my philosophy on that is that that market is so saturated. If you want, honestly, if you want your hip hop record done in Atlanta, there are so many choices and there's so many people who are doing nothing but hip hop. And that's
yeah,
what they specialize in and that's what they're great at. But they probably don't even have like the facilities at their studio to mic up a drum set. They're not micing up guitar amps every day and like getting into that nuance. So I'll let them have their lane.
yeah,
They're great at it. And I'll do my thing where I do the things that they don't do because I don't see that I need to try and compete in that market that there's so much of it already. There's so many good
yeah,
options.
yeah, yeah.
I'm not
I mean,
bringing
I
anything
mean, it's
new to the
huge
table.
studios. Like, that's, the biggest tracks that are making up like all the way at the top of the charts. They're all like, most of them are out of Atlanta. It's all
Yeah,
like
there's
that
some
kind.
amazing studios doing really, really good hip hop productions here. So if that's what you want, I mean, you should probably go there. If you want a really cool, like, mic up your Marshall guitar sound, they're not the place to go, you know?
Yeah.
So
So
I'll do that.
have you ever had a desire to work in a big studio? Because, like, I know for me, and this is something that a lot of people, when they start out, start doing music, and they like, oh, I want to be mixing and mastering engineer for my job. Like, this is what I'm passionate about. And everybody says like, oh, you got to go to a big studio, like learn from the top of the, food chain or whatever. Like, is that ever been something that you've thought about? Because I I've thought about it a little bit, but I just don't really have a desire to sit on a couch watching someone like run sessions all day.
That's pretty much where I am with it as
Yeah.
well. It's like I thought about it, especially when I went full time, I thought about it a little bit and I made like sort of a half-assed attempt at like 1 or 2 places, but I didn't really even like I didn't put my heart into it, so it's not a surprise that it didn't work out because I wasn't sure I wanted to actually do it because and maybe this is arrogant, but I was at the point where like I was already recording some local bands and like making records and knew the basics. And I felt like I could start going full time and earning a living doing this. So why do I want to be an unpaid intern, like cleaning bathrooms and getting coffee for a year to hopefully then move up the food chain and do that way when I could just start making music immediately?
Right, right.
And
And the same argument goes with like, should I go to recording school? It's like, well, it's going to cost you
yeah, I would
30, 40 grand.
recommend
Like,
I would rather
think
do
if
an
you spent that
intern
on
than
gear,
go to a recording studio. Don't go to recording school. It's a
40
scam.
grand in gear.
It's a
Like,
scam, man. Don't do it. If I
just
like,
go to your YouTube channel.
I'm
Greg will
gonna
teach
like,
you how to do this.
or join like Mix with the Masters or Nail the Mix or watch
Yeah.
like 10 episodes of Pensato's Place. You'll get more information than you would from a like recording school degree. I'll say
Yeah.
something that is like maybe a little controversial, but I've seen a little bit of like people who like went to school for things, and I even saw a little bit in parallel when I was like at school for not that and like doing it on the side. And like I feel like, how do you not know how to do this if you're going to school for this and I know how to do this? So if
Yeah.
I know someone like went to school for it, I kind of assume that they'd suck. Like by
There's some
default.
good ones out there. Come
No, there's
on.
definitely, but it's definitely not like by going to school you're not gonna be good at it. You're gonna like learn stuff, and I feel like a lot of stuff you're learning might kind of be outdated and
It's
might.
I had a buddy. If I'm gonna interject here quickly, but I had a buddy that went to recording school, and he said, what it is you learn how to use the school's gear,
Right.
and when you're away from the school, you don't even know how to use your own gear, and you don't have an SSL console.
Exactly.
You don't have all this outboard gear. You have a bunch of plugins, and so it's like what like you don't know how to use the plugins. You just know how to patch in a bunch of outboard gear into a big console, you know? It's like
Yeah, so I prefer the guerrilla method. Is like use what you have and figure out how to make it work, and like get as much as you can out of what you have and then upgrade.
right, dude, I'm with you.
It's like
And
so I was maybe a little harsh in recording school, but
I
if
mean,
you're thinking about going to recording school and you're listening to this, don't, because it's a scam.
I feel like I mean, maybe there's good connections. Maybe,
It's
but you can make the
probably
same
connections.
connections going on
But
the internet, right? I
if
mean,
your
just
goal is to like get good at recording music, I would say just start recording music and
yeah,
you'll get a lot more out of it. And it's cool that you could go to a school and they'll have like a state of the art studio. But if you're starting from scratch on your own, you're not going to have any of that. You're going to have to figure out how to make it work with what you got.
right. Yeah. No, I'm with you, dude. And like speaking of this, I kind of want to talk more about plugins and things because I know there's a lot of people that start when they're starting to record music, they feel like especially with a lot of the marketing that's going on with these plugins, like they feel like they can't
Yeah.
get a mix without having, the latest plugins. And so my question to you is like, for someone who's starting out, like what plugins are important to even invest in? Or can we just
Yeah.
get away with stock?
I would
Like,
say none. I would say don't invest in any plugins because it's not an investment. It's just like you making yourself feel cool by having the good plugin.
yeah,
um, no, there's so much hype around plugins these days, and to the point where like if some new plugin comes out and it's like everyone's all about, oh, this is amazing. It sounds so good. It sounds so incredible. I'm gonna give it a year before I buy it, unless it's like if it's like a version 2 of something I have the version 1 of and I know that this will be a good upgrade, and sure. But if it's some new thing off the map, I'll give it a year. And if people are still all about it in a year, then maybe I'll give it a chance. Because
yeah,
so many things like ride this hype train and then they die off and no one's ever using them. But I'll say that when I started out, I was doing stock plugins and like the freeware smorgasbord.
yeah.
Like I had like every freeware plugin available at the time, to the point where at some point I had to like clear a bunch out because it was overwhelming.
Yeah, and that's another problem with buying plugins, and that's something that I've recently been like trying to actively like I'm trying to not buy anything.
So
And it's
yeah.
because when I load up a track, it's like, okay, I want to do like it needs multi-band compression. Well, now I have 15 multi-band compressors to choose from. So it's like, well, which one is it? And then so like we're gonna go down the rabbit hole and just distract yourself for half hour, 45 minutes, and then you lose perspective on the song. Like it's
Oh,
just,
exactly. So I see
it's
Ryan,
terrible.
Ryan's talking about Fab Filter. It's like I have Fab Filter. I love Fab Filter. That EQ is the best. I use it on everything. But if you're getting started, like you don't need Fab Filter Pro Q. The stock EQ in your DAW is like more than enough.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even need FabFilter Pro Q. It just, like, makes my workflow slightly faster, and I'm trying to, like, waste as little time so I could crank things out and do this for a living. But
Right.
if you're learning how to do it, you don't that's not what's important. You need to just learn how an EQ works. So I would just not even worry about that. I will say that, like, these days, plugins are so cheap compared to even, like, 5, 10 years ago. When looking at, like, buying commercial plugins, it was, like, multiple hundreds of dollars for anything that anyone's using, and now, like, big companies are doing stuff for, like, 30, 40, $50 all the time. That's some of,
Yeah.
like, the best sounding stuff that's ever existed, and it's really easy to just, like, buy it all because, like, "Well, I need this is so cool." But how many EQs do you really need? How many compressors do you really need? There's probably, like, 10 plugins that I use all the time, and then the rest, like, whatever.
Right. I
Nice
know.
every once
Or
in a
there'll be
while.
like maybe one time I might wish I had something, it's,
Yeah.
yeah. And like you said, like with FabFilter, um, there's so many, especially with the new version of it where they added the dynamic EQ section to it.
I mean, it's great.
You're
I
gonna,
use that.
it's too many knobs, man. It's starting to get to the point where it's like,
It's starting to get to the point I like really simple plugins. Like,
right.
if
Turn
if
the
I
knob up. Like
right.
it sounds better. All right, next.
If I can't glance at a plugin and, like, instantly tell how to use it without even, like, knowing what it is, then it's too complicated for me. And I would rather have, like, 5 compressors that each sound slightly different and each have, like, 2 controls than 1 compressor that has, like, 20 controls that can do it all. Because I
Like the
wanna be able
Shadow
to
Hills compressor
well,
that I bought because of the hype, and
mhm,
then it's like I don't even use it because there's too many damn knobs on it.
I do use that one actually, but that one's not that complicated once you learn it, because it's
Yeah,
like everything's like little sections. It's just an optical compressor with 1 control, and then it's like an SSL compressor essentially. Once you could start recognizing those patterns, like, "Oh, this is clearly like an SSL style thing. This is an 1176." You can, like, kinda chunk things and simplify how you think about them, I guess.
yeah, yeah,
But, yeah, like, Pro I have Pro C from FabFilter, their, like, compressor, and it's great, and I use it sometimes, but it's, like, overwhelming. It's got, like, 10 different modes of compression. It's like, do you want classic or punchy? It's like, I don't know. I just
yeah. I want I wanted to fix my problem.
I'd rather just pull up, like, "Oh, this is the compressor that I use when I want something to be punchy," and it's got,
Right.
like, 1 control on it. How much compression do you want?
Yeah. No, I feel you there, dude. So speaking of these, I feel like people really haven't made any substantial leaps and bounds in plugin world, except for maybe a few companies are doing something that are like completely unique. And
Oh, yeah.
like under those circumstances, then I'll consider buying them. So like
Right.
the one that has been game changing for me that I promote to everybody is Soothe.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
Soothe
Su
is they
Soup is
they
the
figured
best
it
thing
out,
of all
man.
time.
And I met them. I was lucky enough to meet them at NAMM last year when people could actually like talk to people face to face.
Yeah.
Weird concept now, but like back
Yeah.
then, and I talked to him and I was asking him a little bit because I have a science background, so I was curious and I started doing a little bit of this, plugin development stuff on the side, some coding, just kind of getting my feet wet. And I understand like basic algorithms and how you approach something like Soothe. So I was asking them, like, how does it work? Like, what's the magic? Is this like some weird, like least squares fitting thing that you're doing and then you're, canceling it out? Like, what's the process look like? And they're like, well, our patent is public now, so you can check it out. So that's when a
I
company has
think
a
you said
patent
that to me.
on the process, there's something special there, and
Yeah.
they're protected. No one's gonna copy it. It's not like here's my version of the EQ and here's the other version of EQ and here's someone else's. Like this is a new thing,
Oh, yeah.
and it's super powerful.
Soothe is amazing. I use it in multiple places on, like, every single mix. Then again, if you're starting out, don't buy Soothe. You don't need it. But if you're, like, trying to do this on a professional level, Soothe is god tier.
Oh, I know. It's
So
it's
that's
amazing.
probably a mixed message to anyone thinking about buying Soothe, but
And I wanna highlight this comment by my homie Dave. I always mention Soothe. I think every live stream where I'm mixing, it comes up somehow.
are you
But
on
like
Soothe 2?
the
I love
company's cool,
Soothe
man.
2.
Soothe 2. Don't stick to Soothe 1.
Yeah,
Soothe
so
2 is like light years ahead of the
Soothe
first one.
2 is like the only plugin that I bought day one because I had Soothe 1, and it's like it does the same thing, but with more features and less CPU. I was like, well, then
Done.
I'll have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the only other plugin recently that I've came across that I was really excited about
I
was
wonder if
actually
it's the
one that
one.
you suggested
I
to
wonder
me.
if it's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah,
It probably
Gullfoss.
is. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
Goldfoss.
Like, talk to me about that. You've done some coding. What the hell is it doing? I've read the manual. They're like cryptic. I don't understand
Yeah,
it.
so I had a similar but very different experience at NAMM talking to the Goldfoss people.
Oh.
I was talking to them and trying to figure out, like, what the hell was actually going on, and they were so cryptic, they wouldn't tell me anything. They were like, "It's proprietary, it's based on psychoacoustics." I'm like, "Yeah, but, like, what's it do?"
Yeah.
Like, they wouldn't tell me. But the way I think about it is sort of like a multi-band EQ or a
Mhm.
dynamic EQ or like a
That's
multi-band
what I
compressor.
thinking too.
I use it in a lot of the same way I would do that, except for that it does it on such a micro level. Um, if you don't know what Gullfoss is, it's like bills itself as like an intelligent EQ. It essentially like will ride the frequency curve of whatever you put through it and somehow know what it's supposed to be. What it seems to do is
It's
seems to
gotta
put
be,
like
like, based on the Fletcher-Munson curve. It's gotta be. Like, if you look at it, it's smiley. It, like
it kind of does a smiley Pultec thing.
yeah.
It's like where it does a little dip out in the low mids and a little boost on the low end, and then it does this weird little high peak around like 16K
Yeah.
that sometimes I drop that thing
Yep.
back so that
Me
it cuts
too.
it off because I don't like that all the time.
It's cool though.
But
Like, man, you put it in and you listen, and you're like, you get used to it, and then you take it away, like bypass it and check. And it's I definitely think you can do too much with it.
yeah,
I think
so
you
I'm
could
usually
go
running
crazy with
like
it,
maybe
but
like
it's cool. It
15%
really opens things up.
because it's got like the two controls like uh re-
Recover and tame.
yeah,
Oh, I was
recover.
just mixing
Yeah,
earlier.
yeah. And I usually keep those like 15 to 20 maybe. And like I don't want it to be doing much. Like if it's doing too much, I know that like my mix is probably fucked up. Like
Right?
what I want to see is it pretty much like hovering around the middle and like sometimes boosting and sometimes cutting. If it's like always trying to cut or boost a certain frequency, that's a clue to me that like something's going on that frequency that I'm ear blind to and that I need to see what's going on because it shouldn't be acting like this.
Yeah,
But
no,
it's
that's
really
interesting
good
you say
for
that.
like yeah, it's kind of a mix checker. I'll usually put it on pretty late on like the master bus, pretty late when I'm already pretty happy with things as just kind of a polishing up thing. And I like that it's dynamic because I don't necessarily want to put like just a straight smiley hue over everything. But I like how it acts in the mid range, especially
Yeah.
when there's like vocals and guitars, maybe trading off what's in front, or like there's a certain note that like pops up a little loud and it's weird. It kind of tames all that stuff and mellows it out, and it's really nice. It's also, if you ever get any vocals into mix that were like self-recorded kind of poorly in like a not so great environment, the singer's like overly dynamic and like not great mic technique, it can work wonders on that to just try and like even out the response on like different words and different distances from the microphone, especially in the mid range. It's really cool.
So
I
literally
love
just put
Gold
it on
Boss.
the vocal track.
Oh yeah, and
I never thought to do that.
oh yeah, I'll do that. Even sometimes on like really well record vocals, but that are really dynamic or have a lot of different vocal styles in one song. If like there's falsetto parts and your full sung parts, if it's a heavy song, maybe screaming, some parts that are layered with like a gang vocal. some parts that are just one vocal, and you want to kind of like even that all out so nothing like pokes out in a weird way or occupies too much of a different space than everyone else. Put that on the vocal bus and let it just kind of do its thing in the mid range. Always want to like high pass it for that, so it's not trying to add sub frequencies to your vocals.
Yeah.
But you can do that really well and even act as a little bit of a de-esser too.
Yeah, it's a pretty remarkable. I was a little bit put off by the price point, but it's a nice tool to have in your pocket.
You could also ruin a mix with it if you like.
Oh yeah.
If you put that on everything, or if you like even put the settings too high, even like on the master bus, once you start going past like 50%, it's like does some weird things. Yeah. Especially if it's like a lot of dynamics in the music, or there's like certain sections that are supposed to sound maybe like filtered or lo-fi, and it tries to correct that to make it sound like right. It's like you could really ruin a mix if you like just without thinking slap that over everything.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about.
These like smart plugins, that seems to be like the new frontier, because there's more 1176s than anyone will ever need.
Right.
But that's something new.
So Tim Talks Audio says he likes the fact that Pro C has a side chain, so you can EQ out. I 100% agree, man. That is huge, especially when you're trying to control like pumping, or there's something very specific you want to focus on. And then the mid side features on it too are awesome.
Oh, it can do a lot. I'm not trying to badmouth it at all. It's just not something I'm going to reach for if I just am like trying to compress something and I don't need all that other stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's too much. It overwhelms me. I'd rather just pull up something simple. But I mean, it's fantastic. And I use it a lot on like buses, especially like vocal bus, because it's super clean.
Mm-hmm.
And if you really just need to like control the level of something really precisely without affecting the tone, it's probably the best you're going to do.
Yeah. So where was I going to take this? I already forgot. Oh, you have a bunch of cool stuff on your website. Yeah, so I went on there the other day. You have plugins available for free, which is amazing. And I noticed you also are doing a lot of samples and stuff.
Yep.
Is that in like the grand scheme of Greg of GMH like audio? Are you gonna go into this drum sample game or plugin game? Like what's the big plan here?
So I don't think there really is that big of a plan, which maybe there should be, but it's almost more like the drum samples and the plugins, it's like a little bit different where I stand on those. So I'll do one at a time. But with the plugins, it's almost like kind of a hobby that also is like related to this, and also like I don't know. I'm not necessarily trying to be a full-time plugin developer or a full-time like computer programmer in any sense. If I wanted to do that, I would just get a job programming computers and have a lot more lifestyle stability.
Yeah.
But I still enjoy it, and I enjoy signal processing and plugins and kind of thinking about how they work. So that's kind of like a little bit of a personal project thing for me. And also I mentioned that I do or when I started, I was getting like all these freeware plugins. I was like big into the freeware plugin scene. So I'm doing these, I'm putting them out for free, and it's kind of like I got so much out of these freeware plugins. I got so many mileage. There's still ones I use all the time, even now. And the fact that people would make these things and put them out there, and I could like use them messing around in Cakewalk for free and get cool sounds. So if I can like make some cool things that I don't see as already existing, if I could make something that I wish existed as a freeware plugin and put that out there, then that's like, I guess that's my way of giving back to the freeware people.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So I also saw you have drum
No.
samples and like you also
Yeah.
have like impulse responses.
Yeah. So the drum
So how do you
sample.
make an impulse response? Like what?
Um,
Like I'm sure there's a lot of people that are
yeah.
curious about that.
So I guess real quickly, like the thing with those that's different to me about the plugins is that's stuff that I do anyway, kind of as part of my production process. Like if I'm recording a drum set and I think it sounds awesome, I'm gonna take samples of it to use maybe on that record or in just my personal collection. It's like, oh, this snare sounds badass. I might want to throw that in something later. And then if I'm like sitting on those for a while, I end up like using certain ones. I'll like put them out there on my website. Be like, I've gotten a lot of use out of these. Maybe other people will too. And same with the impulse responses. If I get like a really badass tone or I have like a unique cab come through, take some impulse responses. And then if I end up coming back to them, I think it's something other people might want. Like, here you go. Have at it.
Yeah.
So I've got some like cab impulse responses, some reverb impulse responses. My studio is off like the garage of this house, and that has like a concrete floor, super reverby. So I've got like a drum sample I made of a snare in there, an impulse response to the reverb I made in there. Those are both all in there, and I use those all the time. But anyway, that's like the difference, I guess, in philosophy between the plugins and the samples. The samples I'm doing anyway for myself, and then just like making available, whereas the plugins is more of a labor of love.
Yeah.
But yeah, impulse responses, making them is super easy. I actually made a video about it on my YouTube channel you could check out.
GMH audio.
I made an impulse response of my garage. But I'll tell you the process is super easy. So an impulse response is a system's response to an impulse. It sounds like really obvious, but that's why it's called that. And all an impulse is an instantaneous sound. So like one sample of audio, just a little blip. And the response to that is going to be like whatever echo is in a room is going to be the response to one blip of sound. So literally all you do is send one sample of audio through a speaker. It just sounds like beep, it's nothing. And then record that sound of that in a space. And that is the impulse response. That recording is the impulse response itself.
So then you just like cut it at the 0 point or something, and then you can put it in a reverb plugin, and then boom, you have the reverb sound. That's basically how it works.
Yeah, exactly. It's really that easy.
It's so crazy.
It's literally the response to an impulse. And you could even like approximate an impulse by doing like a clap or popping a balloon or any really short transient sound will give you something usable as an impulse response. So you can even like make them out in the world. You can record them on your phone. Like if you find yourself in an alleyway, just clap and then load the recording of that into a impulse loader, and there you go.
That's wild.
So
I
there's
never would have thought you could do
it
that way.
Yeah, that's kind of the quick and dirty guerrilla way. And in my opinion, it sounds close enough. And the difference between doing that and doing it the highly scientific way is like almost negligible to the point where it doesn't even matter. And the amount of effort it takes is so much less. That's like, just do that. Because
everybody's going to be going around after watching this and like clapping in alleys and stuff and like making all these wacky reverb responses.
The other way to do it is like with sine sweeps, and you have to do like a deconvolution process to extract the impulse response from a sine sweep signal of a space. And I guess the results will be a little more accurate, but that doesn't mean they're musically better.
Yeah.
So I just do it the quick and dirty way.
I'm with you. I've done it the sine sweep way, and it's kind of a pain. Yeah, because and you never know if what you did is right. You know, it's like, and then you leave the space, and it's like, well, I hope we didn't screw something up. So
yeah, exactly. I've done it that way too. It's a whole thing, and to be able to just do it quickly, and you could make like 10 impulse responses in the time it would take to make one.
Yeah. So we do have a question.
Yeah.
So Ryan Flair says, what are Greg's go-to free plugins?
Yeah,
Putting you on the chopping block, dog.
for sure. There's stuff that I use all the time that's free. So one of them, the first thing that comes to mind, because it lives on kind of my mastering chain, is called the Ulean, I don't know. It's a loudness meter. It's like a LUFS and RMS meter. It's got a nice histogram, and it's free, and it's works great. It'll tell you how loud your stuff is if you need to check that for mastering purposes.
That's awesome. I need to look that one up because
That's a
people
super
have been
nice
asking about
utility.
meters and stuff from me. So
So that's a good one. The Ulean loudness meter, I want to say, is called. What else we got? We got TDR, makes a bunch of really good stuff. Tokyo
dude,
Dawn Records.
Tokyo Dawn, their Kotelnikov compressor is amazing.
Yeah, so that compressor rules. If you want don't want to pay for Pro C, just get that. It's super good. It's got a lot of mid-side features. It's got a low-end side chain that's really flexible. It's got different detection, RMS or peak, and it's super good. They're multi-band. Well, I guess it's technically got a dynamic EQ. TDR Nova is
Yeah.
super good and super nice for you can side chain a low-end duck on a bass to a kick drum with that. It's got a fully implemented side chain. I think that's got mid-side stuff too, but I don't remember. They have a paid version and a free version, so the free one might not. They've got an EQ called Slick EQ. That's super good. It's just a simple 3-band EQ. I actually paid for the paid version of that one too because I use it all the time. And they have a paid one with a couple extra features. But anything that they do is fantastic.
Yeah, it sounds like you're a TDR fanboy, Greg.
Oh yeah, love TDR shit.
Yeah.
So that's good for freeware. I use a bunch of stock stuff still. I use stock gate, stock compressor for when I need to just sidechain something to duck. Stock de-esser.
There's you have a clipping plugin that's free.
I do have a clipping plugin.
Yeah.
That's free.
So I've used that. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
it's really easy to use. And there was and then based on my crazy video I released, free clip is pretty legit.
Oh, yeah.
After doing all the analyses and digging really into all the aliasing and stuff, man, I'm kind of sold. It's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, I wish they had an AAX of that.
Yeah.
But I understand. I don't have AAXs for my plugins. So I can't even directly use it in Pro Tools. I have to have a wrapper, which is kind of funny. But it's a pain in the ass to make AAXs. So I get it.
All right. We got
also I've gotten so many otherwise commercial plugins for free by just keeping an eye on sales and deals. I've got a bunch of Wave stuff for free. I've got some Arturia stuff for free. I've gotten some Sound Toys stuff for free. And so those aren't technically free plugins, but I got them for free and I use them all the time. And
yeah, Sound Toys usually releases their little version of whatever, around Thanksgiving, Black Friday. So just keep your eyes open. They usually pop up.
Little Plate, I got that one for free.
Yeah,
That's
it's
amazing. That all the
time.
That's one of my favorite reverbs.
And Valhalla has a free reverb.
Oh yeah,
Supermassive is incredible.
Valhalla. And also, is it called Freak Echo? It's a pitch shifting delay. That's really cool for spacey effects. That's a great piece of freeware.
Yeah. So there you go, Ryan. You can go fill up your computer with a bunch of.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a ton that I'm forgetting. I could pull up my plugin list and be like, oh yeah, but you don't want to see that. That's a different live stream. Greg goes to his plugin list and tells you his hot takes on every plugin.
Do you think there's any gaps right now, with plugins? Is there something I guess you would have made the plugin already if there was, probably.
I mean, there's stuff that I would like to make and have ideas for, but haven't yet or have tried to and been out of my depth. A lot of the basics are covered, though. To me, a lot of the ground that besides like stuff like Soothe and Gullfoss that is coming out of left field, some of the stuff that people are doing with machine learning has some potential, but
Yeah.
I'm a little skeptical of the applications in the short term. I'm sure we'll get there eventually, but I think like improving interfaces and workflow is a big part of it. I think there's a lot of room for improvement in that, because so many plugins are still like trying to look like analog hardware or trying to model analog hardware. But as more and more people are starting in digital and never really using any hardware, there's no reason that a plugin has to be grounded in what a compressor from 40 years ago was or an EQ and how that worked. And I think that's part of why the Fab Filter stuff is so popular, because it's not really based in how hardware functions at all. It's like, here's a picture of a graph and you click on it and it just does
Or
what you would
you
expect it
grab
to
a
do.
peak and just bring the peak down, right? In their
Exactly.
EQ, you can just literally just grab them and pull them down. It's cool.
I think there's still a lot of room for development in terms of like workflow and stuff like that, rather than just being like, here's something that is similar to an analog piece that a million other people have made.
Yeah.
So I think that's, I mean, every effect that's like could be done has more or less been done. And you could make plugins that combine them in new ways or maybe have a different spin on it. But like people have made EQs and compressors and delays and reverbs. There's not that many different kinds of things that don't already exist. It's just how do you take this and do it in a new way with like the new technology available that makes it work better than it did before.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And then I have one more topic for tonight. Because we got to wrap this bad boy up. Based on what you just had said. So this is something that a lot of people are claiming is going to happen. The robots are coming for our jobs, man.
They
And
are.
I want to I want your opinion on this because like there's companies like Lander, eMastered, we have Isotope that's doing this like mix assistant, machine learning driven like audio help mixing helper. You know, they can do things where they look at, you know, they analyze all the pop music and then they can throw an EQ curve that fixes your mixes. Like, is this something that we need to worry about? Or is this something that is just going to become a tool for mixers moving forward to make even better sounding things, right? It's like, do you think it's
Right.
going to steer it in one direction, or do you think it's going to help augment the vision that we as mixers have?
Right. So, yes and no. It will probably take some people's jobs, but I don't think anyone that's doing great work needs to be too worried. um, I think that there is a human element in making music that is still gonna need to be there, and at the very least, I think it'd be a shame if it wasn't there.
Yeah.
That it's not a purely mechanical technical process like other things that are being automated, and that doesn't mean that it won't get there where it, you know, might not be able to do just as good of a job and interpret whatever that creativity means in a technical way. But I think the like artisan aspect of it is something that can't easily be replaced. So if you're just like a straight engineer and it's just your job to know that this thing goes here and you use this for this and it's very technical and formula driven, I think there's no reason a computer couldn't do that. But if you're bringing a creative human aspect, I think then you're safe.
Yeah.
Like if you look at other industries that have been like fully automated, like you could mass produce a guitar that's a really nice quality guitar and make it in China for $300 and it will be great. But there's still a market for like American made, like hand built guitars. It's just more of an artisan thing. So it
Yeah.
might be going in that sort of direction where like if you just need something cranked out and you know your primary concern is budget and I just want this music to be heard by somebody or do it for your own personal project, I think those tools could be really useful. But I think there will still be a reason to have humans involved in the process.
Yeah. I can't imagine designing an algorithm that puts emotion into the music, right? Like it is such a
Right.
personal thing. I don't think it'll ever get there, and I don't foresee there being a like put this plugin on and now you have a professional mix. Like I think it'd be more of tools to help identify things like, hey, we think there's an issue here.
Yeah.
Maybe you should look. Here's what we're suggesting, kind of thing, like an
For sure.
assistant, essentially.
And like Isotope has some stuff like that already that is okay. It does like broad strokes. But I think like some of that's more like the technical basics of maybe mixing, like maybe like masking frequencies or like evening out dynamics that are just like obviously wrong. But there's such a variability in what a good mix can be. Like one mix that's fantastic could sound totally different from another mix that's fantastic. And it's all about the artist's vision and the producer and the engineer's interpretation of that vision and their vision. And a one size fits all kind of automated approach, I don't think will do that. And if it does, I think it'd be kind of a shame because it seems like it'd be a little more cookie cutter and samey, which is not what I enjoy in music. I like the human aspects. That's why I like recording guitars and amps and live drums. I like having that kind of human variation, the part that's like it could go wrong, but like keeping it together. So I don't know. Some of those technical things probably will be automated, and some of it might be for the better. Some of it might just make people's lives easier. But there's still a creative aspect. I'm not saying that they can't do it. I mean, there's things that technology is doing that I'm sure people 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it's like even what we're doing right now, having like a live chat video conference, that's like Star Trek shit. So who am I to say like it can't be done by a computer? But on the other hand, I think there's things that computers are good at, and there's things that people are good at. And computers are good at crunching numbers, doing technical problems. Like I don't want to have to process like the sample rate conversion for these 3 tracks. Like, I mean, I could get out a pen and paper and like figure all that shit out with equations, but a computer's better at that. Whereas like if like an artist tells me like, I just want more like something in the chorus, like you can't tell that to a computer and get a result. Whereas I could take that and based on the song, like, all right, I need to take this and like figure out how to enhance it and make it more. That I feel like is like the artisan human
It's the vibe,
thing.
right? You can't program vibe. It's like an impossible thing.
So I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm not saying it won't be done, and they'll definitely try. But I think,
and there'll be a lot of buzz and hype about it too.
Yeah, yeah. I think there'll still be a place for human beings. Even like mastering is the first thing to go, because I mean, something like Lander or something, you could run something through a frequency analyzer and be like, well, this is what a frequency spectrum for this genre should be like. So I'll apply these EQ curves to make it more correct. Like you could do that, but that doesn't mean it's like right for the vision of the song. It might sound technically better, be more technically correct. Computers can get you from like technically wrong to technically right, but they're not going to make something like great and beautiful. Right. I don't know. That's my take on it.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's like AI engineers working on it right now, and I'm going to be amazed at what they can do. But in the short term, I think there's still a need for people.
Hell yeah. Well, cheers to that. Robots aren't taking our jobs anytime soon, hopefully.
They'll take other jobs first. At least.
Yeah. Well, it's we've made it a full hour. So I want to thank all of you guys that hung out with us stayed here the whole time. Thank you so much for the questions. If you have a chance, definitely check out some of Greg's stuff. GMHaudio.com, and then also he's got a YouTube channel that has a lot of cool stuff in there as well, and he'll teach you how to make an impulse response to your garage. So So definitely check that out. And is there anything else that you want to mention, Greg?
I think you hit it. GMHaudio.com. It's got those plugins, samples, impulse responses. YouTube, GMH Audio. Instagram, GMH Audio. Wherever you find people, GMH Audio will probably be me.
There you go. So add them on Facebook and YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. And yeah, Greg, again, absolute pleasure hanging out with you. It's good to catch up with you after
Thanks for having me, Bobby.
over a year, man. And yeah, if you guys forget, we do this every single week. So next week we might have a guest. I don't know. We're gonna find out if I can get someone lined up in time. Otherwise, I'm taking you in the studio with me. So I wish you guys all good night. Thank you so much for kicking it. And we will see you next week, 8 o'clock Eastern on Thursday. Have a wonderful night. See you, Greg. Have a good one, man.
Have a good night.